listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Today our guest is James Stuber, author of What If Things Were Made in America Again? How Consumers Can Rebuild the Middle Class by Buying Things Made in American Communities. Jim graduated from Georgetown University with a law degree and now has founded Made in America Again, a movement of consumers dedicated to creating jobs in communities across America by buying things made in those communities. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
So, Jim, I see your family was in the steel business. What role did this play in your book?
My family worked in the steel mills of Pittsburgh and Cleveland, and it always bothered me watching those jobs go away and basically going to places like Japan and Korea in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So when it came time to do this project, that was really one of the big motivators for me.
So how did that lead to writing this book?
Well, you have to fast forward to one night a few years ago. I took a light bulb out to replace it, and I just happened to notice that on the top of that light bulb were two things. The GE logo, which stands for All Things American, Thomas Edison, and all of our ingenuity.
Right.
And the only other thing besides the wattage was in all caps, one word, China.
Oh.
And I just thought that, you know, if GE's making its light bulbs in China, maybe we've got a problem. So that kind of grabbed a hold of me. And I had just been to the Boy Scout store, and everything I bought for my son had been made in Vietnam, China, and Bangladesh. And we had the chaplain of the Coatesville, Pennsylvania prison speak to my men's group at my church. And I remember thinking, you know, I used to volunteer in a prison ministry, and so I know there's never an excuse for committing a crime, but wouldn't it be easier to keep the young men in Coatesville straight if they made things there anymore and there were jobs to aspire to? So there were several things like this that just kind of all happened in a couple of days, and it grabbed a hold of me and wouldn't let go. So I set out to answer three questions. Why does it seem that everything's made somewhere else, especially in China? Is that causing a problem? And if it is, what can we do about it? And I very quickly determined, of course, the answer to the first thing is because pretty much everything consumers buy now are made somewhere else. Stores are full of them.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But then, just a cursory glance lets you know that actually it is causing a problem with all those jobs going overseas. And then I thought immediately, well, wait a minute. If consumers are 70% of the economy, we could solve this problem just with making some different buying decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Except that it's gotten so hard to find things in stores now, I thought, well, the internet could solve that problem. I could put up a website that would connect people to the companies that are still making things here. So I set out to create this thing that I'm calling Made in America Again that has three components. And one of them is an educational nonprofit to get the word out to people about what's happening, get the facts out there about how this really is not a sustainable business model and for our children and their children.
Okay.
And then the second leg is what's called a for-benefit corporation. It has a public mission of creating healthy communities by helping people buy things made in those communities. And that company will operate the website. And then thirdly, this is pretty much something we can do on our own without asking the government permission, but it would be nice if we could tell where things were made. And so this third leg is an organization that will seek clear country of origin labeling laws so that it's easier to know where something was made when you're making a buying decision. And also Buy American policies on the part of our governments and our companies when they are acting as consumers. So those are the three legs of the stool. Okay. And I was off and running, except that when it came time to put some information up on the nonprofit website, I realized that, I was going to really have to write that book. And so I knew, there would be a book someday, but once I started the research, I realized that there really is a big story here, and I'm just going to have to get to the bottom of this. So on June 4th, 2014, but who's counting?
Yeah.
I went into the library at my alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania here in Philadelphia, and hold up for the better part of 3 years. I was doing other things. I was working on that business and on the website, and I had a consulting job I was doing. But most of my time for nearly 3 years was spent getting to the bottom of those three questions.
Wow. And then the result of that is the book and the webpage and the nonprofit? Wow.
Yeah, so the result is, the book is I really see as the foundation for the whole movement, because I wanted this all to really be based on fact, and to have, where in a subject where there's often more heat than light, it seems, people kind of throw out generalizations, but well, how many how much money did we really send overseas? What has been the net effect of those trade agreements, and how many jobs was that, and what effect has that had on our communities? Really try to quantify it. And so, and it wasn't easy. I had to really go digging pretty deep. Luckily, the information is available. I ended up going into the databases at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Census Bureau to get these trade figures and these employment figures. And once you can find them, you can download them into Excel files and create charts and see what the heck's going on.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So what was your work?
So it was very gratifying. I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt.
What was your work schedule like when you said you were holed up in the library?
On average, I'd say I was there 5 days a week. And most of those, the majority of those days, I'd show up in the morning when they open at 8:30, and I'd leave at 10 at night.
Wow.
So I knew both shifts at the library cafe.
Yeah.
who really were a great help. I mean, they gave me a lot of encouragement and moral support, and I made sure I went back and gave them all signed copies of the book. We had a really happy time. They saw me through it all.
Yeah, that's nice. So, all right, so now you have all this information, and well, maybe since you're an attorney, it wasn't overwhelming, but for most people it might be overwhelming. But how did you decide, how am I going to get this published? How did you find a publisher, or did you self-publish?
I was fortunate to have a friend who put me in touch with a consultant who helps authors, get books done. And he kind of gave me the lay of the land about how the publishing industry is organized these days, and that there are a handful of printers that all of the big publishing houses use, and that these printers have augmented their service offerings now to include not just the printing, but also warehousing and fulfillment and distribution. So there's a menu of services that you can choose from just using the printer if you want to go that way. So this was, as I considered my options, this really seemed like a good way to go. So what I did was I formed a publishing company. By the way, the fellow's name is Alfred Glossbrenner at Fire Crystal. That's all one word, Fire Crystal Communications. And I say to our listeners, keep him and his wife in mind. If you're looking for a consultant who can really help you through this process, they do everything. They help with ghostwriting. They do editing. They'll do your index. They've got a nice suite of services, and so it was. He just gave me some free advice about here are your options, Jim. So I formed my own publishing company. It's dedicated to the idea that we really do need an informed and civilized discourse if we're going to have a democracy, and so let's try to publish some books like that, and of course my book is the first, but I'm hoping this company actually might publish some other books that are dedicated to the same purpose.
Great.
So, and it's called Current Affairs Press. It's in Philadelphia, which I think gives it some gravitas. Philadelphia, Boston, New York. So, if someone's not really up on the publishing industry, to look at this book, you'd have no idea that this is an indie project.
Okay.
We can put the links to both of those in our show notes.
Sure, and the Current Affairs Press has its own website, currentaffairspress.com. So one can see what's possible, if you wanted to form your own company. And I knew how to do that because of practicing law, so I didn't have to get anybody to help me with that.
Very good.
So then I also, we'll just put it right out there, I had to borrow the money for the first printing. It's been bad enough having to live on a lot of savings, while I was writing the book. So,
Yeah.
But if people are wondering, what does that cost for a 5,000 book first printing of this length? It was about $5 a book.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
how long is the book?
So that's $25,000. So it's 638 pages.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's pretty thick. It's a thick book.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it's a doorstopper. It's not something. Although I'm happy to. Somebody got through the whole thing and put a review up on Amazon that it reads like a novel. So I guess,
wonderful.
Excellent.
I must have had some success in not making it too tedious and too long.
And then how about an editor? After you must have had thousands of pages probably of information to sort through, and then you wrote it.
I had to, right, and therefore I had to forego having an editor. And, I don't recommend that. Everybody will tell you, you should have an editor if at all possible. But what I did have were three friends who are pretty bright guys who read some of the chapters and gave me a number of good suggestions about this or that tweak that I might want to make.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have an editor in the usual sense of someone who is really tightening it up and making it more readable and kind of helping shape it. But fortunately, I just have done enough writing over the years that I was able to get away without that. I'm pretty confident that it wasn't a fatal flaw.
Right.
Great.
What did you do for your cover art?
There's a thing out now called Canva, C-A-N-V-A,
Sure.
that is a very nice tool for people that are trying to produce graphics for various purposes, like a Facebook post or whatever. And they have a library of photographs with millions of photographs that you can either get for free or for $1 each, and you get the use of it for 24 hours for that $1. And so you can download it. You can put a graphic on it, download it, and do what you want with it. So I found a nice photograph of motor vehicle engines on an assembly line, kind of coming toward the camera, and then I used one of the photo editors had a nice little feature that would let you leave the center kind of in focus, and then the rest of it would become kind of blurred.
Sure, like a vignette.
Mm-hmm. I'm giving all the little tricks here for people who don't know how to use Photoshop.
But this is good. This is good.
That's why we tuned in.
Show you what you can do if you have to, And so I knew that Word lets you put a watermark, on a document. So I used that photograph as the watermark. So that gave me a background, on my cover.
Neat.
Oh, very
Good
nice.
idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just used the Word. They have a feature that lets you put an outline or a box around the text or around the page, and then I played with fonts and colors and got the text where I wanted it, and then I just took a clip of that, using the Clip It tool in Windows, and got a picture of my of the cover I wanted, and I did that 4 times for the cover, the back, and the flaps, and just laid it all out just using Word, really.
Well, so you really did it all. You really did.
Well, congratulations.
Yes.
That's very nice.
Thanks. I mean, that was nip and tuck. I didn't know if I'd pull that off, but I did, and I think I would say to anybody, if you don't have the money to pay someone to design your cover, doesn't mean you couldn't possibly do it yourself. And I studied other covers, in Barnes & Noble to see what they were looking like. Also, as far as the layout of the book, I did that myself as well. So I chose the font.
Okay.
Chose the what the first pages of the chapters would look like, where to put and it's nice when you have control over those things, because I had certain preferences for, I liked to be able to tell what chapter I was in, not just by number, but by name. So I did that. And I like a table of contents that tells me something about the book. I hate tables of contents where they have these clever titles with chapters and you have no idea what the chapter's about.
Sure, like it's a surprise.
Yeah. Well, read it and you'll find out what that chapter is. And I did have someone tell me she had seen the table of contents and she was intrigued, because she could tell where I was trying to go with the book. So, and also if somebody wants to find something in the book, so I have like 3 levels of headings in each chapter. So I put the first level heading under each chapter with a page number, so you can really see how the book's laid out in a table of contents that runs 3 pages.
So you could pick up the book, and if you were interested in a particular thing at this moment, you could find it.
Right.
Great. That makes it more accessible.
Yeah, I think it makes it more accessible. That's the right word. More readable.
Good. Now, what about promoting the book? What have you done for that?
I've signed up with a program that's actually based here in Philadelphia. It's called Quantum Leap, and it's run by Steve Harrison and his brother Bill. And their program is designed for authors and speakers and people who have something that they want to tell the world, and how to take the quantum leap, as they call it, to get up to that next level of wherever you are. And their program does include help with getting a book written, but it also is primarily designed at book publicity and at getting speaking engagements. Oh. It's kind of a broad-based program in the sense that if you wanted to put together webcasts or CD sets of programs that you wanted to sell, if you want to slice and dice your content that way, they help people do those things, which of course that's not my thing, but so I'm very pleased. I've just started with them. So they publish a thing called Radio Television Interview Report. Radio Television Interview Report, RITR, comes out twice a week, and they give a little paragraph description of authors who are available, or experts who are available for interview on particular subjects.
Wow.
And that goes out to, I don't know how many, couple of thousand of media outlets.
And has that helped you?
Yes, I've gotten, I've just been in the program a couple of weeks, and I've had several radio interviews so far. So
great. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, so far I'm pleased. I'm just getting started with their program. It's a year-long thing, and again, but it's the idea is that if you want to be an expert in the field, then and get the word out that you're an expert, then Steve's idea is to first claim your expertise, your expert position, get the word out that you're available to help people with whatever you have to offer.
Oh, very good. And then, are you doing any Facebook or Twitter or any social media?
Planning to. I haven't gotten started yet, but that will definitely be a part of it.
Okay.
If I guess the best way to describe my goal would be, as Al Gore is to global warming, I would like to be for Made in America.
Okay.
So I really want to try to get a movement going here.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's fun. It's, because I feel like when I get up in the morning, I'm doing something to change things, not just have to sit and watch the economy stagnate and try to game the system and figure out what job I could suggest to my kids that's not going to get sent offshore.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's true.
So it's a good feeling.
So it seems like this process has been a good one for you. You've taken control, which we have heard from a lot of people that they'd like to have control over how their book is. Some people have said that, I don't know, one person had worked with a publisher, but they just could not agree on things, so then they decided to go publish it on their own. Now, what about, have you had any problems with, do they print on demand, or you said they have a warehouse, so you've already printed the books and then they'll be sent out as ordered?
Right. I chose the latter course. I could have printed on demand, but each book is more costly that way.
Oh, okay.
But on the other hand, if you don't have the money up front, then it can be a good way to go, especially if you're not trying to make money on the book, but you're trying to just establish yourself, for another purpose.
Okay.
Because, for a lot of people who are experts, the book is their calling card.
Right.
But then they're really looking to make their money by selling their CD sets or their speaking engagements or whatever. So So the printing on demand is can be a good way to go, especially now the way the printing processes work. You would never know that it's not typically printed book. But since my goals are set high, and I do hope that a lot of people will read this book, I was able to raise the money for the first printing. It made more sense for me to go ahead and get 5,000 of them done, especially since it's in their warehouse and they're ready to ship. Say if I had an organization that wanted to order 200 of the books, they'd just ship them out.
Great.
They're not in my garage. I don't have to do it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah.
So where would someone purchase your book? How do you buy your book?
It's available on Amazon. It's available. One of those services I told you the printing company offers is they have their own website where they sell the books, and I don't know why they call it this. They call it Seattle Books. It has nothing to do with Seattle, but it looks like Amazon. It looks like Barnes and Noble online, and
okay.
And so they will fulfill those orders directly from their warehouse. So that's the primary place I like to try to send people. So I created a website for the book, which is called themadeinamerikabook.com.
Okay.
And that website is the place where people can go and they can learn about the book. It has messages from me, and it has an excerpt, and the typical things that one would expect in a website that's dedicated just to a book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we looked at it. It's a nice website.
Oh, thank you. And then every page, and I share this advice that I received, that every page should have a click-through to where you can buy the book. Buy now.
That is a great idea.
And that clicks through. Yeah, that clicks through to the Seattle book site.
No sense having 2 clicks to buy the book, right?
Right.
Right.
So they do. I send people to my book website first, and then, but they're always able to just click right through to Seattle Books if they want to purchase a copy. And I make more money on each book there than on Amazon, because Amazon takes a bigger piece.
Right.
But on the other hand, Amazon sales can help. If you're trying to achieve bestseller status in a category, and you only need an hour of bestseller status on Amazon to say I was a bestseller on Amazon.
Right. Yes.
So that can be the upside of the Amazon sales, as opposed, the downside being that they take a big percentage.
Well, Jim, what would be your best advice to give to fellow authors who are thinking about or in the process of writing a book?
Well, I guess just coming to mind, the first thing is do something you're passionate about, because it's going to be a lot harder than you think. There are some things one can do, and you can just start talking, and it just all comes out, and more power to you if you're working on that kind of project. But I'm guessing that most books aren't that way. And no matter what it is, if you're trying to write, 7 Steps to a Better Marriage or something more along what I've done, it's going to be a long, tough slog. So I just say be sure you're passionate about it, and then look at your skill sets. Look at the list of things that have to be done, no matter what, for any book, and see which ones you can do and which ones you're going to have to fill, because you don't have time or you don't have that ability, and figure out how you're going to fill those.
Right.
Those gaps.
Think ahead.
And then, have a plan.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
And if you're passionate about it, that will see you through. And I became more passionate about my project as I learned more and more about what's going on, and I started becoming more and more concerned about my children's future. So that kind of got me through, because I was really sprinting since September 1st of 2016 from then until March 23rd, and I just worked all the time on the book. So it was really quite a run. But don't underestimate what one can do yourself. You can look at books, how they're designed, and think about how you'd like yours to look. Right. And you can at least do a first cut on the dust jacket if you don't have $1,000 to pay somebody, and so just go to it.
Well, I think you've had some excellent tips. We've heard things that we haven't heard before, so thank you for sharing all this information. Right there.
Yeah, going to the skill sets. I was fortunate, having practiced law and written a lot of briefs and business plans and things. I was pretty well skilled at Word, and so it's a daunting prospect to do 12 chapters in Word with footnotes.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just fortunate to bring that skill to the table. And if you don't have that, just find somebody who does, who can work with you.
Yeah,
Right.
so not only did you have all this research, but then, how do I organize the research and how do I make it all make sense? Yeah, this is a huge.
And and I think that's another thing too, as far as making it make sense. I would say take a step back and make sure you have a good plan for the book. I knew from the beginning that I would organize the book around the 3 questions I mentioned to you in the beginning. So it does have part 1, part 2, and part 3 devoted to each of the 3 questions. And then there were a couple of iterations of how I would end up doing the chapters. And I started with the history, and it kind of was a catchy beginning because I started in January of 1945 during World War II, during the Battle of the Bulge. I kind of grabbed people's attention, and those guys coming home and going to work in the steel mills. And then I just traced the history of our terrible trade theories and how we just started giving it all away. So I decided I wanted to try to capture the reader's attention before I started with all those graphs.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
But it has a very logical progression, and I think that's really an important thing. Before one really starts writing, is to try to get an outline. Now, in my case, I have to say that the research in the end dictated a lot of that, because as I discovered what was going on, that shaped the book. So, for example, China got its own chapter just because China became so important in what's going on.
your ancestors must be very proud of what you have accomplished. So congratulations. That's pretty neat.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a great feeling to have this done.
I bet.
And to think that it might make a difference.
So, Jim, how's the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you?
So they should send me an email. So my name is Jim Stuber, and the email is jstuber, that's JSTUBER, at miaa.us. And in fact, if they can just, they're somewhere and they can't make a note of it, miaa.us stands for madeinamericagain.us, and just clicking on that site, and there's a link to me, there's a link to all that I'm doing, link to the book.
Yeah, it's a great URL. That's a great one. Well, Jim, thanks for being our guest today on the Author Inside You podcast. Thanks for listening to the Author Inside You podcast, and until next time,
Right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.